The Kaya Girl, a novel by Mamle Wolo, Chapter 2.
Please like our videos, subscribe, hit the bell for more exciting videos.
When I got back to Auntie's shop that day, it was like a magic wearing off. Auntie Lydia just had a way of squeezing it out of things, like rigging water from a rag. Pfizer became nothing but a kayayo once again. Auntie did not know whether to be amused or annoyed that I knew her name. "You followed that kayayo to the car park?" she asked in disbelief. I had not had time to make up a better story, so I told her I had been worried she might drop our goods because the bowl was so heavy. "Those girls dropped something?" she sneered. "Their neck muscles are made of steel. You don't know the things they carry up there, where they come from." Gifty sniggered. She was Auntie's maid, a daughter of one of her husband's many poor relatives from a village somewhere in the eastern region. "Now make yourself useful and get on the internet and open the email account you set up for me," Auntie continued. I wanted to ask what the Kaya girls, or whatever they were called, carried where they came from, but did not want to sound cheeky, and anyway, I had a feeling she would not be interested in going into it. Moreover, I did not want to give Gifty the satisfaction of sniggering at them again, and I needed to get back into Auntie's good books after wandering off like that without any warning. However, I asked Pfizer that question as soon as we had enough language between us. She was learning Chi and broken English rapidly because of her work in the market. I was helping her with both and even picking up a few Dangbanli words myself. "We carry water," she said. "Water?" I asked. "From where?" "From the stream," she said logically, "to our homes. Sometimes we walk the whole morning with bowls on our heads, like this one, full of water." I could not believe it. How could anyone carry that? And for hours? It was hard to imagine when all I ever had to do was turn on a tap. "And firewood." "What? We carry firewood? From where?" I echoed myself. "From the trees," she laughed. "Ah, bah! Is that not where it grows?" She had a cheeky streak, Pfizer. But you'd never know it if you only saw her as a kayayo. "We cut it from the trees and take it home to make fire for cooking." As I learned more about her life, I found out that she also carried foodstuffs when she went to the farm with her family. Corn, millet, yams, groundnuts, beans. And she carried shea nuts too. That one was tough to understand. She kept repeating the name, but I just didn't know what she meant. In the end, she grabbed me by the hand and led me to the section of the market where they sold shea butter. I nodded with comprehension, and she asked me if I had ever used it. I said no, and wrinkled my nose because I did not like the smell of it. She laughed at me. "Where I come from, we eat it," she said. I felt disgusted by the idea, but at the same time, a little disgusted with myself for wrinkling my nose at something other people ate. I did not know why I cared about this. I was sure if I had been with my classmates at school, we could have laughed it off quite comfortably. "Come with me," she said again, and this time she led me to a part of the market where women in colorful veils were cooking all sorts of things. I felt my mouth water and remembered it was lunch time. That was why I had been able to go looking for Pfizer while Auntie took her lunch break. I'll eat mine later. I had called over my shoulder, trying to get out before she stopped me. "This is Kulikuli," said Pfizer. This time, it was me who had pulled hair, flowing my nose. I looked at the cooked brown circles that had just been lifted out of a sizzling frying pan and wondered what could smell this good. "It was made of granuts," she told me, miming the rolling of the paste and twisting her imaginary strip into a ring. I pulled out a coin from my pocket and was surprised how many of them I got in exchange. From the first bite, I knew I had found a favorite aunt. Pfizer also pulled out a coin, a smaller one, from a knot in her wrapper cloth and went over to a different food seller, squatting on her haunches and greeting her respectfully. She came back with 2 small blocks of something I had never seen before. It looked a bit like soft soap, but it smelled good and I was still hungry. "Try it," she said, handing me one. I bit off a chunk and licked a light oiliness off my lips. I said, liking it without the faintest idea what it could be. "What is it?" "Steamed bean cake," she said. I would never have guessed it was made from beans. I finished it off and looked purposefully in the direction of the seller. Then she added with a crafty look in her eyes, "with melted shea butter." I looked at her thinking she was joking. She was laughing at me all right, but I could see she was serious. That was something we were always able to tell with each other, right from the beginning. I tried to describe the bean cakes to Auntie Lydia later on, but she cut off my description with "Hausa food. So now you are eating with that Hausa girl." Brony and the Kayayo, Gifty taunted under her breath. I knew she was jealous because she considered Pfizer a bush northerner and just didn't understand what I saw in her. Although she was also from a village, she was a southerner, and I knew she was puzzled that I should prefer Pfizer's company to hers, especially when we were family in a way. She called me Bruni, although I was darker skinned than her, to show that she did not consider someone as privileged as myself a true Ghanaian. It was her way of getting back at me. I tried to tell Auntie that Pfizer was not a Hausa but a Dagomba. Not that I knew what the problem would be if she were a Hausa girl anyway, but as always seemed to happen when the topic of Pfizer was raised, I could not seem to hold her attention beyond one sentence. Even if she took a fleeting interest, other things always seemed so much more important as soon as I started to talk about her that I would feel embarrassed for doing so. Like some greenhorn who didn't know such things were of no interest to people who had better things to do. I thought more about this feeling when business was slow in the shop. Should I be embarrassed? I wondered. It was certainly odd for a girl like me, a doctor's daughter, a pupil of the American school, to be striking up a friendship with a Kayayo in Makola Market. Was it really a friendship though? I asked myself, half of me shaking my head quickly. Of course not. And the other nodding slowly. Yes, of course. I knew I could never describe it as such to my mother or my friends at school. A word like acquaintance seemed more apt when I thought of ever discussing it with such people. But in my heart, I knew it was a friendship. Had known it from that first smile we exchanged, and it was not just any friendship either. Pfizer seemed to know what I was thinking before I said it. We hardly needed language to communicate. I loved her sarcasm, the way she could make a question seem idiotic with a simple "ha bah." But the laughter was always for both of us, and how much of it there was. I never knew there was such much freedom in laughter until I met her. I would well up like millions of tiny bubbles, filling us up with lightness till we felt we could float away, fly in the sky, free as the birds. When I got back to the shop, I would be smiling at the customers, chatting with Auntie until she asked if someone was paying me per word, one of the many affectionate reprimands with which she simultaneously loved and disapproved of my ways. I knew that her own children, when they were children, would not have chatted on and on to her as if she were one of their mates. They never wanted an expensive school full of bronies, but to a strict Ghanaian boarding school where homo was a verb that meant bully, and children were terrified of pupils a year older, let alone adults. Auntie tolerated a lot in me with her unique brand of grumpy affection. She would allow Pfizer to hang around outside the shop, chatting to me in between customers. Our shop became her station, so she no longer had to roam around the market looking for random customers. She also carried goods for the Nigerian ladies' customers from the Gele shop next door. When business was slow, she would turn her huge silver bowl upside down and use it as a seat while I perched on the step outside the shop, the chilled air seeping deliciously into my bag from underneath the door. We would chatter away against the bustling heat of the marketplace, speaking Chi peppered with English, Dangbanli and sign language. It was astonishing how fast Pfizer had picked up Chi and English. If we spotted a customer heading our way, we would break off quickly and I'll leave them in a while. She melted like a chameleon into the background, waiting to be called if she were needed. I often accompanied her to the car park. Auntie had given up protesting. Sometimes, when we were out of her sight, we would stop and I would make Pfizer transfer the bowl to my head. It did not seem fair to me somehow that she should always carry it. She was such a tiny girl, a full head shorter than me and so skinny. I often forgot how small she was because when she talked and when her face split into that huge smile that was almost too big for it, she just seemed the same size a person as anyone else. It was when I saw the bowl on her head, ridiculously dwarfing her, that it struck me how little she was. But she let me do it because she saw how proud I was when I was able to balance and carry it more than a few paces, and she did not want to spoil my fun. It was more to humor me than to help her, because I struggled under it far more than she ever did. That was why she was the Kayayo, I guess. As she explained to me, Kaya meant load or goose in Hausa, and as I already knew, Yo meant girl or woman in Ghana. I did not wonder at this odd mongrel of a word until much later. For now, I just marveled over how such a tiny girl could carry such heavy loads. There was something so strong about her smallness. I envied it Although it did not seem to make sense for a girl like me to envy anything about a girl like her, I also envied her freedom. One day, I told her so, and she laughed. You envy me? Yes, I said. You just run your own life without anyone telling you what to do. Ah, you think you are the only one with an auntie, don't you? You have an auntie too? I asked, and then immediately felt silly for asking such a question. Of course, everyone had aunties. Any moment she was going to say, "Ah, bah," and look at me with dancing eyes. But she didn't, and when I looked up, she just said simply, "You want to know my story?" We were sitting in our usual place, she on her upturned bowl and me on the step. I nodded.
End of chapter 2. Please watch chapter 3 in the next video. Thanks for watching. Please like our videos, subscribe, hit the bell for more exciting videos. Thank you.